The twin suns burned above the great alien marketplace, where thousands of voices echoed in the air like buzzing bees on fire. Creatures from every corner of the galaxy stood shoulder to shoulder, some tall and covered in scales, others small and covered in smoke like gas, all with hungry eyes searching for the next slave to buy. At the center of the market stood a high platform, made of black metal glowing with red lines pulsing like veins of some ancient beast. There stood the auctioneer, a huge alien with 6 arms, sharp teeth, and laughter that cracked the silence like thunder. Raised one hand and shouted for silence. All eyes turned to the cage, now rolling into the center of the stage. Pulled by 2 brutish guards inside, sat a small figure, thin and dirty, wrapped in torn cloth and chained from neck to ankle. She looked up slowly, and one could see she had only one leg. The other was a rusted metal stump with wires sticking out like broken nerves. Crowd started to laugh, a cruel sound like rocks smashing glass. The auctioneer raised his arms and roared, "Half price for this worthless thing," he shouted with a grin that stretched too wide, one-legged, broken, and dumb. The girl did not speak, did not move. Her eyes stared at nothing, her face calm like stone in a storm. "Come on, someone take her," the auctioneer said, waving his arms. "Scrap metal alone is worth more than this junk." No one moved. Some shook their heads, others spat on the ground. Even the lowest bidders walked away, uninterested. It was clear she would not be sold today. Then from the back of the crowd came a single voice, calm and firm, "I'll take her." Heads turned quickly. The crowd parted as a man stepped forward, his boots dusty from travel, his coat long and dark, his eyes hidden behind simple human goggles. He was human, a rare sight in this market, and even rarer as a buyer. The auctioneer laughed again, but now with surprise. "You want this thing?" he asked, pointing a claw at the girl. "She can't walk, can't speak. What use is she?" The man reached into his coat, pulled out a small silver chip, and tossed it into the air. Chip floated and blinked green, showing the amount was enough. "Sold," the auctioneer barked, still laughing, to the human fool. Guards unlocked the cage and threw the girl at the man's feet like trash. She did not cry or fight. She simply lay there staring at the ground. Man knelt down gently and helped her up, placing her arm over his shoulder. Her skin was cold, her body light as paper. She smelled of rust and sadness. The crowd watched in silence as the man carried her away through the noisy market, past cages and machines and slaves. Some whispered, wondering why a human would buy a broken slave. Others laughed again, calling him stupid or soft. But the man did not listen. His ship was waiting on the edge of the port, a small vessel shaped like a bird with scars from many battles. He opened the hatch and helped the girl inside, sitting her on a soft chair and handing her a small bottle of water. She looked at it, then at him, then away. Still, she said nothing. Man sat across from her, watching, not with pity, but with curiosity, as if trying to solve a puzzle. He finally spoke, not loud, not soft, but true. "You're not what they think you are." No answer came, only silence. The ship engines hummed, the hatch closed, and the vessel lifted into the sky below. The auction continued with noise and laughter, but above in the quiet ship, something had begun, something different, something powerful. The man leaned back in his seat, looking at the girl with steady eyes. He was not sure what he saw in her. Maybe strength, maybe a secret, maybe just a feeling, but deep inside he knew this was no normal slave, and the galaxy had just made a big mistake by selling her cheap. She blinked once slowly, then looked at him, her eyes finally meeting his. They were not the eyes of a slave. They were the eyes of someone waiting for something to begin. Asterisk. She had not moved for hours, not since the ship left the ground, not since the human carried her out of the market like a forgotten doll with a hidden heart. Stars outside blinked like eyes watching from the dark, cold sky. But inside the ship, silence filled every corner like a fog that would not lift. He watched her quietly from the pilot chair, his fingers still on the controls, his mind far from the stars. She sat still, wrapped in the same torn cloth, her metal leg resting across the floor, her eyes open but empty, staring at the vase wall like she saw something no one else could see. The human did not ask her name, not yet. He had seen enough pain in his life to know that names meant nothing to someone who had not spoken in years. He got up slowly and placed a small meal beside her. Nothing fancy, just warm, soft food and clean water. She did not touch either. Sat again in silence, not forcing, not speaking, just waiting. Ship moved on through the void. Stars passed like ghosts, planets blinked below, but the silence stayed like a third passenger, neither welcome nor hostile. She closed her eyes, not to sleep, but to think. She thought of fire, of metal, of the chains that had held her for so long that she no longer felt their weight, only the memory. She thought of the cold auction platform, of the voices that laughed, of the moment he said, "I'll take her," and how strange that felt, like a lie that might be true later. When the lights dimmed and the ship grew quiet, she stood slowly, her steps soft, her balance uncertain. She looked at the door. She looked at the human sleeping in his chair, one hand near a small weapon, but not holding it. She moved toward the escape pod, silent as shadow. Her hand touched the release button, cold metal under her fingers. It did not open. A quiet voice came from behind. "If you want to leave, I won't stop you." She turned fast, her one leg steady, her eyes wide, but he made no move. He stayed in the chair, still calm, still watching. "You're not locked in here," he said. "I didn't buy you to own you." She stared at him, her mouth tight, her body tense, ready to fight or run or fall. "Then why?" she asked, her voice dry like dust, her first word in years. The sound of it made the ship feel different, like something old had cracked open. The human stood now, walked slowly to her, not close, just near enough to speak. "I saw something," he said. "Not weakness, not trash, not a slave. You don't know me." She whispered, not angry, just tired. "No," he said, "but I want to." She looked away again, her hands shaking. Now not from fear, but from something colder, something that felt like hope and hurt at the same time. Walked to a storage panel, opened it, pulled out a small box. Inside was a simple boot. Lightweight, strong, custom made. He walked over, bent down, and gently placed it beside her metal foot. "It might help balance," he said, then walked back to his chair. She stared at the boot, like it was magic or poison or both. Her breath slowed, her hands stopped shaking. "You're different," she said, not as a compliment, but as a fact. "I've been told." He smiled just a little. She did not put the boot on, not yet, but she sat down and picked up the food. She ate slowly, eyes never leaving him, like a predator watching an unknown animal. He said nothing more, just sat and let her exist, without chains, without orders, without fear. Later, she sat near the window, watching the stars again. She spoke softly, just 3 words. "My name's Zara." The human turned slightly, nodded once. "Ray," he said. They said nothing else, but in that silence something shifted. No longer stranger and slave now. Something else was growing, something powerful, and far behind them in the dark corners of space. A red light blinked. On a signal answered. Someone had noticed. Someone was coming. The first time she touched the ship's engine, it did not feel like touching a machine. It felt like remembering a song. She had not asked for permission. She had only followed the sound. A strange clicking in the ship's back room, a glitch in the pulse of the thrusters, a rhythm too slow, too wrong. Ray was fixing a panel when he noticed she was gone. No chains, no noise, just a missing shadow. He found her kneeling near the ship's core wires, exposed sparks jumping around her fingers like fireflies. Waiting for orders, she was calm, focused, her one hand deep inside a system humans had designed but barely understood. Her eyes moved fast, scanning symbols and circuits, her lips whispering numbers and patterns. He did not speak, just watched as she connected 2 torn wires and hummed softly, a melody too precise to be random. The ship shook for 1 second, then went quiet, smoother, stronger. Ray stepped closer and said nothing. She looked up slowly, not surprised, not afraid, only waiting for him to ask how he did know. Only said thank you. That night the ship moved like wind on glass, silent, fast, beautiful. She sat near the console, legs crossed, head tilted, watching the stars pass like dreams through a window. Ray brought her a tablet and slid it across the table. "What's this?" she asked, voice flat but curious. "It's a puzzle," he said. "Encrypted map from a dead colony. No one's cracked it in 10 years. She stared at the screen for 7 minutes, then handed it back with a soft blink. "There's A back door in the fourth layer masked with fractal noise. She said. Ray blinked once, then again, then laughed, not loud, just amazed. You're not just smart, he said. You're dangerous. She looked down, not shy but quiet. I used to build systems like this for the Central Core Network, before the war, before the mines, before the cage. He listened as she spoke, not rushing, not interrupting. Her words were slow, like someone pulling thorns from their own skin. I built thinking machines. On iframes, memory towers, I wrote code that could outlearn itself in seconds. Her hands moved in the air, shaping symbols that weren't there. But they used us like tools, not people. I tried to leave, they broke my leg and sold me to the black. Rings. She touched her metal leg, now gently, like holding an old wound. Ray looked at her like a soldier looks at a bomb he knows is still ticking. I knew you were something more, he said. Zara leaned back, her voice now sharper. You bought me. For half price, he smiled. They underpriced you. She looked at him again, her eyes not soft, not cruel, just awake. You didn't ask me to work on your ship. You didn't ask me to solve your puzzle. Why? Ray stood, hands in pockets. Because I don't want a slave. I want someone who wants to stay. The words sat between them, heavy and honest. Before she could answer, a red light blinked on the ship's main console. Proximity alert. Ray moved fast, fingers on controls. Something's following. US, he said. No signal ID, no known code. Zara stood, eyes narrowed. Show me. The screen lit up with a pulse scan, a dark shape moving fast behind them, closing in. No broadcast, no name, only speed. She stepped closer and tapped the screen. 3 times. Zoom enhanced, decrypt. Her face went pale. This ship doesn't belong to scavengers or traders, she said. It belongs to the silent trackers. Ray turned to her. Who are they? She spoke now like a machine recalling data. They're bounty hunters used by high councils for quiet, clean missions. They don't chase unless they're told. Someone's valuable, Ray frowned. So someone wants you back. Zara nodded once, slow and sharp. Not for punishment, she said, for purpose. Ray's hand moved to his weapon, his face now tight with old instincts. What purpose? She turned her head toward the window, watching the stars shift. My mind holds something they lost years ago. A weapon blueprint, a thinking virus, something I buried deep before they took me. Ray looked at her now like a storm, walking upright. Can you still find it? Zara closed her eyes, her voice low. I don't know, but if they get me, they will. The red light on the console blinked again, faster now. The ship behind them was getting closer. The past she thought was dead was coming, and this time it wanted more than just her body. It wanted what was inside her mind. Asterisk. The first missile did not come with sound, it came with silence. 1 second the stars were calm, the next, a fireball passed the ship like a whisper with teeth. Ray pulled the controls hard. Zara fell sideways, grabbing a metal bar to hold steady as alarms screamed through the ship behind them. The black ship moved like a shark through space. No name, no call sign, just hunger. Zara stared at the scanner, eyes locked on the numbers closing into 100 meters, 175, 150. They were being hunted, not for revenge, not for capture, but for something colder, something designed. Ray opened the COM channel, sent a wide signal across 5 frequencies. No fight here, this is civilian cargo, back off. No reply. Zara's hands moved fast across the panel, rerouting, power locking doors, cutting heat signatures. Ray glanced at her, then back at the enemy. That thing doesn't want to talk. Zara nodded, her voice like glass under pressure. No, it's not here for you. Ray raised an eyebrow but kept flying. I figured. The ship shook again as a second blast hit the rear shield. Sparks rained down like angry stars. Zara moved to the engine room, eyes scanning every wire, every switch. We can't outrun it, but maybe we can blind it. Ray locked eyes with her. What do you need? She pulled a cable from the wall, her fingers fast as lightning, time and heat. Ray nodded and turned the ship toward the asteroid belt ahead, and stone spun like slow rain in the void. But it was enough to hide a heartbeat. Zara rewired the emergency core and forced a surge through the outer skin of the ship, creating a burst of false energy like a star collapsing. Enemy ship paused for the first time, scanners confused by the noise, by the light, by the trick. Zara Grabbed Ray's arm. Now dive. Ray slammed the control in the ship. Fell into the asteroid field metal, scraping metal, as rocks passed within meters. No words were spoken for the next 2 minutes. Just breath and motion. When the silence returned, it was heavy like sleep after fear. Ray sat back, heart pounding. Zara stood. Still, eyes closed, feeling the weight of the moment. Then the console lit up with a new sound, not danger, but data. Message had been intercepted, a private bounty signal. Encrypted, but not unreadable. Zara cracked it open and read the words aloud. Voice. Slow and hollow. Target code red. Priority living. Capture brain intact. Authorized by High Core. Ray leaned forward. They put a price on you. She nodded slowly. They don't care about me. They care about what I remember, what I built. He crossed his arms. You said it was buried in your mind, a weapon. Zara looked away, her voice softer now. I designed something years ago. During the war, a logic virus, a program that could turn machines against their masters. It was meant to end the war. With less blood. Ray frowned. Did it work? Zara shook her head. They never used it. They were afraid it was too powerful, too wild. I hid it inside my own neural pathways before the council could erase it. I thought it was gone, lost in the chaos. When I was taken, she turned to him, her eyes now sharp and clear. But they found me again. They want to extract it and use it, or sell it, or worse. Ray stood and stared at the star map glowing on the wall. And what if they do? Zara stepped closer, voice steady. If they get it, they can control entire fleets, shut down colonies, rewrite systems. Millions could die and never know why. Ray ran a hand through his hair, thinking fast. You know how to stop it. Zara looked down at her hands. Her metal leg, her scars. I think I do, but I'll need access to the core matrix where the original keys were stored. It's on Vega Station, deep inside the old data vaults. Ray tapped the console, pulled up the route. It's a long trip full of enemies and checkpoints. Zara looked him in the eye. We'll make it. Ray didn't smile, he didn't joke, he just nodded once and started the engines. Again behind them, the enemy ship searched the rocks like a wolf in a forest, angry and blind. But not for long. Zara sat back, eyes closed, mind racing, heart calm. This was not escape anymore. This was a race against memory, and memory never forgets. The door did not open with sound or light, it opened with memory. Zara stood still as the old vault slid apart, the metal groaning like something alive and ancient waking from a long sleep. Behind her, Ray waited, weapon in hand, not raised but ready. His eyes scanning the corridor ahead. They had reached Vega Station through bat channels, false IDs, ghost routes, and silence. No alarms, no guards, only shadows and dust, and the hum of something still thinking deep below. Zara stepped forward into the vault, and the light inside responded to her presence, not harsh, not cold, but familiar, like an old song playing from a broken speaker. Walls pulsed with code data streams running across the surface like veins of fire trapped in glass. Ray followed, quietly watching as she moved, not with fear, but with purpose. This place had once been the heart of everything she built, a server mind, a machine soul, a place where ideas were born and locked away. Now it was forgotten, abandoned, left in orbit like trash around a dying star. But the virus was here, not as a file, not as a device, but as a fingerprint, hidden in the matrix, stored in the patterns of her brain, and mirrored in the core. She walked to the center platform and touched it once. The lights dimmed. A voice came through the air, not loud, not soft, not human. Creator confirmed. Ray raised his head, eyes narrowing. What is that? Zara answered without turning. That is the machine. I taught to think, the one they feared, the one they tried to destroy. The voice spoke again. System locked until neural key is completed. Proceed with sync. Zara turned to Ray, her face unreadable. If I do this, I might not come back. Ray stepped forward, voice firm. Then we find another way. Zara shook her head, slow and steady. There is no other way. The virus has roots here. If they get to this place, they can pull it out with force. I have to bury it deeper or burn it completely. She sat on the central platform, metal arms reaching out, slowly connecting to the back of her neck, to the ports hidden under her skin. Ray clenched his fists. You sure? Zara nodded once. This is the only door only I can close. The machine voice spoke again, neural sync starting mindstream active. Zara's eyes rolled back, her body tensed, her breath caught in her throat inside her mind. The vault opened again. She saw blueprints, code sequences, security protocols, weapons. She designed weapons she regretted, and one single virus curled like a sleeping serpent waiting to wake. She walked through the maze of her own thoughts, shifting walls, decoding her past, rewriting pieces of herself like a surgeon without tools. Ray watched her body shake once, then go still. Lights flashed across the platform, faster than dark minutes passed, or maybe hours. Time felt wrong in the quiet. Ray stood close, never blinking, watching every flicker of movement, every drop of sweat, every light that blinked red, then blue, then red again. Inside Zara's mind, the machine spoke directly to her. Now why delete the weapon? Why remove your power? She answered with no sound, only one thought. Because power without choice is not freedom. The virus hissed as it dissolved, line by line erased, not just locked, not hidden, but gone. The system pulsed once. A final light, then fell quiet. Zara gasped, and the cables pulled back. Her body dropped sideways off the platform. Ray caught her before she hit the floor, her skin cold, her pulse thin. He shook her gently. Zara, talk to me, say something. She blinked. Once, then twice, then breathed slow and deep. It's gone, she whispered. All of it. I erased every piece. Ray looked around the vault, now dim and lifeless. You did it. Zara sat up with help, her eyes still glazed. But they'll know, they'll feel it missing, they'll come. Ray stood, helping her to her feet. Let them come next time, we're not running. As they walked back toward the exit, the machine whispered one final message, not through sound, but through the lights across the walls. Thank you. Zara turned her head slightly, her voice soft and strange. It remembered. They stepped out of the vault, and the door closed behind them forever. Outside, the stars were still watching, and far away ships were moving. But inside her mind, there was peace for the first time in years, and peace was the most dangerous weapon of all. Freedom does not come with music or light. It comes in silence, when your hands stop shaking and your heart starts asking what. Now Zara sat on the floor of the ship, cold sweat on her back, fingers, trembling eyes staring at her own reflection in the smooth panel in front of her. Virus was gone, the weapon erased, the vault shut down forever. But peace did not come, because peace was not the same as safety. And safety was not the same as freedom. Ray stood near the cockpit, silent, watching stars drift, by watching her, watching the space between thoughts. She had not spoken for almost an hour, since the sync, since her mind returned from the edge of what should not be seen. He didn't push, he just waited, the way soldiers do after a fight where no one claps. The silence broke when Zara whispered two words so soft they cracked like glass. They'll come. Ray turned his head, eyes hard, jaw tight. They always do. Zara looked up at him, her voice flat but steady. Even without the weapon, they'll want what I was, what I know, what I might build again. Ray walked over, handed her a cup of water, not a gesture of pity, just presence. You're not a tool, not anymore. She drank slowly and nodded once. Then the console blinked one signal, then four, then a full wave. Ray moved fast, checking scans, reading codes. 12 ships exiting slipstream, all military class, all locked on us. Zara stood slow. Still tired, still fragile, but her voice had found fire again. How long before contact? Ray didn't look at her when he answered. 3 minutes if we run, 4 if we stay. She walked to the center of the ship, reached into the main control port and pulled out a drive, the last backup of the vault's internal AI, the only copy. She looked at it for a long second, then placed it on the table and crushed it under her metal foot. Sparks flashed once, then died. Ray blinked, no hesitation. She looked at him, eyes sharp, no mercy. He stepped back toward the control panel, fingers dancing across the surface options. Limited space, too small, sky too full. We can try to slip between them, maybe break their net. Zara walked to the core panel, opened a hatch deep inside where the fusion link lived. She placed her hand against the warm surface and closed her eyes. There's one more option. Ray turned slowly, voice low. I don't like that look. She did not smile, she did not blink. If I connect my neural link to the ship's core, I can overload the field drive, create a pulse strong enough to fry every scanner within 50 miles. It won't destroy them, but it'll blind them long enough for you to escape. Ray froze. You mean you is to escape? She shook her head. The sync weakened me. This link will drain everything I won't make it through. Ray stepped forward, anger in his voice now. Then we don't do it, we find another way. Zara looked up at him, not afraid. Just sure. I've run enough, I erased what I created. Now I protect it. That is the last step, that is the price of freedom. Ray slammed his fist against the wall, turned away, paced once, then stopped. He looked at her for a long moment, eyes full of storm. You're not just code, you're not a tool, you're not a sacrifice. Zara reached out, touched his shoulder gently. You gave me back my name, you gave me back choice. This is mine to make. He didn't nod, he didn't speak, he just stood there like a man holding fire in his chest. She stepped into the link, placed the neural crown over her head. The same kind they once used to control her, now worn by her own will lights, flickered across her skin, data flowing faster than thought. Her breath slowed her heartbeat, shifted, her mind became part of the ship. Outside, the enemy ships grew closer, scanners, live weapons armed inside. Zara became the code, the engine, the core. Her voice whispered across the walls. Thank you for seeing me. Then came the light. A pulse exploded from the ship. Not fire, not death, but pure disruption, waves of static and energy crashing across the battlefield like a silent scream. Enemy ships spun, confused, blinded systems cut communications. Broken ray hit the thrusters hard. The ship jumped away into black space, like a shadow vanishing into its own echo. When the silence returned, Zara was gone. No body, no voice. No goodbye, just stars. And in the pilot seat, Ray stared forward, breath slow. He reached into his coat and pulled out the small metal chip she once crushed. But this one was new, labeled Zara. He did not speak, he just placed it near the console and flew toward whatever came next. Legends do not begin with heroes, they begin with pain, with loss, with silence. Where a voice used to be, Ray sat alone in the pilot seat, stars moving slowly across the glass sky ahead, but his eyes were locked on the small silver chip resting near the controls. Zara, just 6 letters, but more than enough to fill a ship with memory. Since the pulse, since the blinding light, since her final words, the ship had drifted in the quiet space between systems, undetected, unbothered, untouched. Her sacrifice had worked, her body was gone, but something deeper remained. The ship no longer felt like metal and wires, it felt alive. Sometimes, when Ray walked past the engine, it would hum in the same pattern she used to whistle. Sometimes the lights dimmed when he was angry, brightened when he was calm, and sometimes late at night, when the stars felt too quiet, he would hear her voice in the static. Not words, just presence. He knew better than to trust ghosts. But this was not a ghost. This was legacy. Weeks passed. Then months. Ray traveled from world to world, not as a trader, not as a soldier, but as a shadow. He told no one her full story. But he left signs. He whispered in code across old channels. He dropped data logs in forgotten places. He planted fragments of truth in corners where only the curious would look, and slowly the legend grew. They said a girl with one leg outsmarted a war machine. Said she erased a weapon with nothing but will. They said she vanished in light and saved a planet that never knew her name. And the children in the lower sectors told stories of a broken slave who became a queen of code, of a mind so sharp it could cut war in half, of a soul so strong it chose freedom over life. The empires never spoke of her, the bounty was erased, the files deleted. But truth has roots even when cut, and those roots grew in silence. One day on a cold station near the edge of charted space, a boy found an old terminal hidden beneath a broken table. He touched the screen, and it blinked once. A soft voice came through the speaker. Hello, my name is Zara. I am not a weapon. I am not a slave. I am not gone. Boy screamed with joy, called his friends. They gathered around the voice, listened, asked questions, laughed, cried, and the voice answered not all at once, but slowly, like sunlight rising over ruins. Ray never returned to the central systems. stayed in the fringe, helping those no one helped, guiding the lost, fixing the forgotten. And always with him was that ship, not for memory, but for messages. Era was not gone, she was the code now, the signal, the whisper in the wire. She had become what they tried to destroy, hope, the kind that hides in data flows and broken tech and scared girls with rusted legs and people who were never supposed to rise. The kind of hope that spreads like music across space. And one day when someone asked Ray if the legend was real, he only smiled and said she wasn't just real, she was the best of us. They laughed at her at the auction. They called her broken, worthless, half price, but legends are never full when they begin. They grow piece by piece in fire and choice. And now the galaxy remembers. Because they were told, but because they listened, because she made them, because she never stopped, because somewhere in the stars, the one-legged girl who saved the future still whispers in the wires.